Hello boys, and welcome to the city of Lost Heaven. In the year of our savior, he decided to bless us with a remake of one of the best Mafia games that we ever got our grubby little hands on. Or so I've been told. What? I was just born when this shit came out. And you know what I was doing in 2020? Feigning in the Home Depot garden section and absolute no-lifing gunfight in Modern Warfare. I was busy, damn! So as I sit here, petting my dog, ask yourself just one question. Are you a smart fella or a fart smeller? I must be on copious amounts of illicit substances. But without further ado, grab your favorite illegal firearm purchased from the creep behind the target, sit back, relax, eat some fucking pastrami or some sort of pasta, and enjoy a look back at Mafia.
Fucking bright as shit, my goddamn eyes. I ain't gonna have eyes no more. Flashbang, goddamn.
First of all, we're starting off the rip with me questioning what the fuck is actually going on, because we start by talking to this Irish cop. And it's one of the biggest cliches in storytelling that I personally absolutely cannot stand. It's not like we're talking to a shrink or something, talking about how things affected us and how fucked up we are in the head, but we are talking to a cop. So obviously something happens that gets us out of the life. And what usually happens when a notorious mobster talks to the police and sells on all of his buddies' crimes? He gets sent off to another fucking dimension. I've never loved the idea of starting with how the story ends. I didn't like it in Hamilton, even though I knew he got shot way before because I'm American. But I don't like it here, and that's just me. I will say the story surrounding the drama session with the cop is, hold on, it's time for a cliche myself, damn near perfect with one exception. From what little I know about the mob from the early 1900s, how are we trusted so quickly? I swear it usually takes years upon years to get to the level Tommy was only a few months after driving the two chuckle fucks to safety. I don't know if it's my stunning looks or my charming smile or the fact that this chubby prick looks weirdly like a human version of Patrick Star, but something was up from the moment I started chilling with the Don before the guy who's been driving him for time. It never even really feels as if Tommy wants to be a part of this life and is looking for a way out, but the money, Sarah, and the friends he made are too much to just give it up. Even though the game ends not great for Tommy, or the two dickheads we came to love over time, he obviously cares and is choked up when shit goes sideways. And that's shown immediately when Polly is shot and Sam is beat to shit in our first collection run, which of course goes horribly fucking wrong. But Tommy was willing to almost get shot himself to save two people he didn't know all too well at this point, then chase down some guy for money after he's already killed 14 other people, which it doesn't make sense that a few minutes later he is shitting himself needing to lay someone out. Like, you've killed people before. Like, these fucking degenerates wanted to do incredibly unsavory things to your soon-to-be wife. Put 3 in his head and 1 in his cock. It's not that hard. If it weren't for us beating the shit out of them that first night, then killing people and chasing them down the second time, Sarah could have been touched or killed. Just do it, you big baby bitch. I know he's new to this life, but we killed people up to this point and drove a race car around town as if it was ours to send flaming into a ditch. Putting 1 in someone's head would have saved so much trouble. It's also weird how easy this game is to read, but I can also just assume that's because the original game came out over 24 years ago, and I've just played far too many video games. But as soon as Polly ran out of ammo, I just knew that some shit was gonna happen, and it was gonna come back to bite us in the ass. Just like the slow disassociation from him, getting pissed drunk to hide his pain, and keep the goofy ass smile on his face while wanting out and being jealous of Tommy and his family. Wanting one big score and he would fuck off and do his own thing. But at the same time being willing to take himself out instead of being taken out, and a few nights before his horrific death to Sam, talking about wanting to punch his ticket because he's afraid that he will forever be alone. It's weirdly modern with a mobster fucking opening up about his feelings, but it highlights the problems with the gang and mob life where you can't open up, and if you step out of line, you're just gonna fucking die. Morello hit a guy, hit one of his own guys in his own car, and then kills him for it. My friend, you fucking hit him! If somebody rear ends me while I'm just fucking chilling, I'm not gonna look up and see what car they're driving or who's behind the wheel just to get... It's so stupid. Just to get killed for talking shit. Absolute insanity. Salieri did always say how Morello used his heart instead of his mind. This is the first real time we even see that. Even though I think Salieri used his emotions just as much as Morello, if not more, going after Tommy and finding out his new identity, like fucking 20 years later. I'm surprised the bulbous prick didn't have plaque buildup in his veins and popped a heartstring in prison. Not to mention that after being incredibly anti-drug, because that's just not the type of shit most mobs deal with, he has us to go steal an immense amount of them. trying to play it off as just diamonds and not the devil's lettuce. Like, I know the mob has no morals, or at least people can die and get fondled in their shit with guns. But to make such a fuss about it earlier, and to go behind everybody's back and risk your 3 most trusted men to get the shit for you? What the fuck? We don't even really know what happened to said drugs or what happened to make us decide to go to the police, except for the fact that our 2 best friends ended up dead or a traitor. But I guess being fucked over twice in a row really does something to a man. I can almost guarantee Salieri had no fucking clue that we robbed the bank, while Sam knew everything but wanted the problem gone. You think Salieri would have made a big show about this, doing it with 100 men in a grand marble building? Hell no! Unless a little bit of the devil's lettuce got into his morning porridge, I only think Sam is that fucking stupid. I know he did a lot of things to piss him off, but I feel like he genuinely didn't know anything until the end. I think it was all a ploy. A scandal! By that swindling little bitch who never truly was a friend to us and Polly, considering Polly, again, is fucking dead. Maybe Sam told Salieri, but there ain't no way he would have known. And why would he want it to be out in the open like this? I also went into this game expecting a story to have 3 more games of story to continue on with. Or maybe just 2, because Old Country is obviously about fucking Italy. But they bundled it up into a nice, neat 8 to 9 hour package, and it's a really nice change of pace. I do have a tendency to play games over and over again, and I'm hoping that this means the other 2 games are also standalone packages, but I don't know because I haven't fucking played them, if it isn't obvious. But that's great, and I applaud the 2002 video game gods for that. But holy fuck, trying to slaughter people is an absolute fucking slog. Like, they could have made it better for a whole ass remaster. What were they thinking? Yeah, blah blah blah, old ass game. But I think we can all agree that the use of a circle instead of a traditional crosshair is an absolute abomination and should be federally prosecuted alongside whatever fucking dickhead decided you have to hold down buttons to select things in modern video games. Or even worse, the cunt who made it so that in order to open a pack in FIFA, you have to press square before you can open the pack. Why am I viewing pack details? Just let me fucking press X and then show me the goddamn details. Give me an X or a dot in the middle, or better yet, a cross that opens and closes to show recoil and other shit. Not some circle where the entirety of a man's head, throat, and cock can be inside, and somehow I miss. I'd get it if I didn't murder 300 people by the end of the game, but I did. You would think that after 5 or 6 years in the games, beating the shit and shooting the cum out of people that we would be better at it. My dead great-grandmother with late onset rigor mortis and arthritis since her 40s could have done better to kill 20 men with a Tommy gun. Luckily, it doesn't only affect us, because I swear to God, more than once we should have been made into mulch, but everybody under the sun can't shoot straight. You send 30 shots in 10 seconds directly at me? Joke's on you, I fucking bend bullets. It's not even necessarily the bubble that is our crosshair, which, yes, I'm not over, but instead of having a stable shot, even when I'm standing still, it sways like a bitch. And also, I could live with that, but the fucking aim assist is horrendous. I'm not much of an aim assist guy. I could live without it. But when someone runs across your screen and your gun just gets brought to center mass, which would take like 12 shots to kill somebody, and you have to actively fight it to get a headshot while it's bobbing around, and because of this fuck-ass, shit-ass aim assist, it's still slower than if I just whipped it out myself. I turned it off just to test, and it's so much easier to exist and kill people without fighting a system that in the end was put there to help you. It is quite sick that the enemies are a little smarter than your average video game baddie, because they don't come at you one by one. They peek around boxes randomly. It's not on a timer like other games. They may peek at the same time. If you're hiding behind a box or just sitting in cover and there is a way around you, they call it out and try to come around from a different angle. And at a time, from multiple angles, making actually paying attention during these fights absolutely crucial. This shows its head even more so in places like the bank vault, where there is more of a 3-lane design, and as one man with no backup, you have to try and stop them walking your shit down by yourself, and if you're focused on one more than the other seems to take advantage of that. But don't even get me started on the melee combat in the game. It's not the end of the world if it's not great, but I think it is the end of the world when it's not responsive. I swear to the Lord, more than once I have fully clicked the counter button or parry button, or whatever the fuck you want to call it, and I've just sat there and taken the hit, or just climbed onto a nearby ledge, because some fuckhead decided to use the same button to jump as the button to counter. Now I know technically the button does not appear unless you need to counter, which is fine, skill issue. but the fact that it even works that way utterly baffles me. I accidentally hit it when I think an enemy is winding up a punch. I'm just gonna get hit anyways once I get stuck in the animation of mounting the nearest object. When it does come off, I feel like John Wick, pistol whipping and kneeing someone in the dick because they got a little too close to me and asked about my car's extended warranty. But it's so few and far between that my silly gamer hands can't make that happen. I guess over 20 years of video games, and I just can't get back to the level I was when I was a kid. I just can't do it. I'm not good anymore. I'm bad. You ever sit back and think about games of yore? You know, the ones you might have played as a kid and yearn for some even slight resemblance from modern games, but obviously a little prettier and with fluid controls? Well, Mafia, at least for me, is exactly that, kinda, minus the fluid controls, mostly stemming from the mission structure. Usually I would sit here and complain as an old man yelling at a squirrel how it's so boring driving from one place to another, watching cutscene after cutscene that instantly pushes itself into someone getting domed or us running away from something. But since the game plays, feels, and is a remake of a classic game, it does kind of pull at my nostalgia strings a bit. Now, I do wish they could have updated it, so maybe it was more of a Grand Theft Auto system, where you also drive from mission to mission. But also, that's me trying to compare a game that is fundamentally a completely different game to a game that has held the grip on the genre for 25 years. Right, GV Sounds 910? Please tell me this isn't just another GTA clone, I beg you. Let my family go, please. They didn't do anything. Anyways, it also hits a place of nostalgia when it comes to collectibles, which I have a huge soft spot for in my rat-shaped heart. But passing them in side rooms mid-mission, I could do this shit for hours. I'm a sucker for a good collectathon, but put them alongside missions where there's only 100 or 50 or so, and they show us either people mentioned in the game or names we know in real life as the bigwigs when it came to organized crime in the early 20th century. It is absolutely phenomenal. I also know there are a few in free play as well, which gives you a reason to drive around at insane speeds, but whoever was cooking in 2002, come back and cook again. We missed you. Whoever came up with this is the hero gaming needs. I'm not sure what it is about games coming out in the early 2000s where everything controls like a fucking boat, but for once this shit makes sense. It was also a thing in GTA 4, and more egregiously, Saints Row. I know, almost 4 and 6 years after the release of this game, but it's a running theme that trying to turn normally is completely fucking futile because the car will never turn how it's meant to. I drove every day of my life for 8 years, and I can say quite literally that this is not how cars work. No power steering or not, if I crank my wheels, they don't slide out on perfectly dry roads at 20 miles an hour. But this comes with a big ol' but in front of it, because just like Saints Row and other games of the time, driving slow isn't really an option, but doing horrendous speeds in an 8-ton steel box of death is perfectly acceptable and doable due to the fact that pulling the handbrake essentially means that you can turn properly. Yes, I'm going 80 miles per hour in a car made pre-World War II, so it's totally plausible that on a city street that I can send this bitch into a drift that puts me directly in my lane. I mean, don't get me wrong, it makes it so incredibly fun to drift around the city, but not when there can be a cop around any corner waiting to get you for going over 40. And that's where the speed lock comes in, which I don't hate completely. It fundamentally makes sense and turns what could be a challenge you do when you're bored to not break laws into a game mechanic which can actually be interesting, because police react to what you're doing. I don't know exactly what extent it goes to, but I do know if you zoom past one, they will chase your ass down until you drive into a roadblock and they suddenly forget how to drive, which I also think is a great way to implement getting away from these dickheads. And even though it gets old watching the same cutscene over and over of police and other mobsters fucking dying while trying to chase you down because you turned into a construction site, it's interesting nonetheless. It's honestly a relief that a speed limiter is an option, and I'm not always forced to do the speed limit and drive around town like any old grandmother. Genuinely, one of the main concerns I had going into this game is that we were going to be constantly forced to go the speed limit, and it's just not the case. I will admit it could have been about the original or about the second game, but who cares? What I heard is what I heard. I have the ears of the cat and the eyes of a rodent. The police also will just find you on the spot and not try to murder you or arrest you instantly. I'm just standing here with my gun out, genuinely typing the script for this video and playing just for them to sneak up on my ass and take my hard-earned money. It has to be one of the best police systems that I've ever had the displeasure of using because fuck the police. Except this guy that walks up to a man with a gun that just shot it on accident and hands me a ticket instead of putting 3 in my dome, so he's pretty chill. Back to driving. Enough police glaze. There is the option to skip the driving altogether, at least when it isn't entirely important. You know, quiet drives to Polly's at the end or start, when there is truly nothing happening. But come on, who wants to turn that on? You cut down the game time to half if you do that. What once would be around an 8-hour playthrough is now only 4 because you didn't drive through the entire city in silence, listening to the radio and breaking laws in front of cops. 4 whole hours of what is useless driving cut out. Is that really what you want from your video games? I like looking at the buildings and shit, so I'll just drive. It doesn't really help when you're going Mach 13 in a pre-World War II sedan and a car just appears while you're running from the cops. I sped past one on my way to complete a mission and that man was glued to my ass for time. Just for this car to phase into existence out of fucking nowhere like a reverse Thanos snap. Now, what was a speeding and evading police ticket and maybe just a few days in the can is now a murder charge because this car just appears and I crush a lady against a wall. Also, complete side tangent. This camera reminds me of when I was a kid and I didn't know how to change the camera on GTA 3, so I was just stuck looking at my car from this angle for the entire playthrough. I'm also an avid enjoyer of a good motorcycle in video games because they're supposed to be nimble and able to weave in and out easier than a car would. And that's the case even with motorcycles all throughout history because they are smaller and lighter even way back when. I'm not saying I should be able to split lanes of traffic like you could today, but the motorcycles in this game are utter garbage. They handle damn near identical to the cars and are unresponsive to all hell and make me want to tear my eyes out. The slight little movements turn into either hard jolts in a direction or end up not moving you at all. In one of the last missions I needed to do in order to lock the dog costume, we have to drive this fuck-ass motorcycle through the city. And I suppose this is also a critique on the level and the mission design, but trying to cut it through these alleys and to make sharp turns in this bubble bass looking ass motorcycle, it just doesn't work. It's that hard to control. I would much rather top myself than do this mission again. It's just far too long. 10 minutes of driving in between bubbles that I can barely see because of the lighting, trying to do tight turns, and a motorcycle that can turn about as tight as my anus after eating Taco Bell. Speaking of stairs, absolutely diabolical work, making it so that cars get stuck either in the first step, no matter how lifted that they are off the ground, but also no matter what car you're in and how much speed and power it can output, it will struggle and fail to go up steps I'm sure my Toyota Corolla could go up. It even is felt in this fucking mission that makes me want to never touch a motorcycle in this game again when a checkpoint leads us straight to the stairs that I'm assuming we could go up. Because why would we be on a time limit if I couldn't fucking send it up this set of stairs just for it to launch me off the bike, then crash the entire game right at the end of the race? I will not be completing this game now. It's pissed me off that bad. Actually, I probably will, but when I'm less pissed off. One last thing before I stop complaining about the driving, because it's 90% of the game and it's low-key mad annoying, not having to hold a button to get in and out of the car instead of just tapping it. It's kind of crazy. Like, why the fuck do I have to hold the button to get in and out of the car? Not necessary. Utter woke nonsense. Luckily, Lost Heaven is a pretty city to look at, and if not a little samey when it comes to the early 1930s American city style. Almost everything and where you spend a vast majority of your time in this game is very compact sitting buildings that aren't super tall unless you're on the central island when they start getting huge. Side to side with narrow alleys or no alleys at all, with entire streets at times just being one elongated building. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, but to have so many sections of town looking roughly the same, but maybe a little more trash in this neighborhood, and this one having a bit more greenery. This being Chinatown, so there's a little bit of Asian influence. This being the factory district, so it's a little more run down. It just doesn't grip me when it comes to the inner city. Don't get me wrong, it is a great place to drive around alongside jazz music on the radio, and the buildings that you see are nice, but there is just nothing really there. Free play is a sick idea for a game that was once locked to only being explorable when it comes to the missions and the areas inside them. To bring the game forward and have the best of both worlds is absolutely amazing. But there isn't anything to do besides steal cars and try to fill out your garage so the GOAT mechanic can fix them up and have them ready for you to drive, or pick up the extra little bits around the map. I understand that there are some secret missions that are left around the map in the end that let you become a dog, and these missions are generally just more of the base game ideas, but this time with no dialogue or anything, just silence and gunfire. Granted, a lot of the rewards we are getting are fucking sick, like this car that absolutely fucks itself into the water when you slightly tap the gas, but the problem with them is that I'm a fucking idiot. And like I said, everything looks relatively samey. Let's take this for example. We need to find a big cup so we can pick up the phone next to the big cup. I don't remember a big cup. My brain does not compute as to what the fuck they mean by big cup. And there are other giant cups in the area, but they more so expect me to remember that a cafe on the opposite side of town to where we spent a vast majority of our time in the game is the cup. That's me being a fucking idiot though. I'm a smooth brain rat bitch. But this one genuinely did my head in. Why in the fuck would you tell me to go to this fuck-ass restaurant and then maybe this one right next to the restaurant that again you told me to fucking go to isn't the one that rings. The one that rings is the one on the street and around the corner. How in the fuck? If we want to talk about immersion, these notes, they don't even give correct fucking information. Absolutely diafucking-bolical. Speaking of which, I fucking hate when video games do this. The button to get into the garage is not on your screen. It's on the door. If you stand just in the right spot, there's no indication of what button to press. Of course, square, X, or E, depending on what you're playing on. I don't even know if it's on PC. Doesn't matter. It's the first thought that comes to mind for most players when it comes to interacting with things. If I stand here, I would not know what button to press if I didn't know already. But Rat, it helped with immersion. Yeah, I'm really fucking immersed having to move my humongous 13-ton dumpy out of the way to see what button I'm meant to press. It could genuinely make a fuck ton of sense to integrate the button prompts into the world and really would help, but only during like QTEs and cutscenes or unscripted portions. It's just... God, I am just old man yells at sky. Either way, there are a few things that really rustle my jimmies, and that's one of them. The other way they immerse us is actually absolutely perfect. It is chef's kiss. It makes me giggle every time I see it, and that's the signs on the streets. Of course, I will always use the minimap as a video game player. It's always there, it's always useful, but if this didn't have a minimap, I wouldn't be mad. The signs being on the corners and a part of the scenery telling you when and where to turn completely caught me off guard when I saw them for the first time, because I'm pretty sure I drove through one not realizing exactly what they were, and from that point on, from the first 30 seconds this game had me in a fucking chokehold. That alongside how vibrant the world is with the sun shining, and like I said earlier, while I don't find the world all too intriguing, it is absolutely beautiful and fun to look at. There are slight hiccups when it comes to animations when you're driving, but you're not going to realize that when you're looking out at the city in front of you, or losing your mind looking at how shit the puddles are. The buildings when they're farther out start to look like polygons, but what do you expect? The game came out in 2018? This is just how buildings look when I take my glasses off and squint. They keep enough of their textures to be somewhat recognizable, like, this is the Empire State Building. That's a penis. That's a chode. That's the twin penises. Maybe I do see more and remember more of the city than I expected. The only problem I have with how the game looks is that when it's bright outside and you go into a tunnel, it's pitch fucking black in the tunnel, then as soon as you come out, it's a flashbang. I understand that this is how eyes work. Maybe not to this extent, because the game loves making it impossible for us to see, but I do have eyes, and I have driven vehicles through tunnels and proceeded to strain my eyes to see, but I could see. I wasn't completely blind for like 5 seconds. This game, in totality, if you take away everything bad I said about it, and the mob boss behind me with a gun to the back of my head, is a perfect representation for me of what a PS2 remaster or remake or whatever this is, I don't fucking know, should be. It keeps the core of the game the same, much to my dismay with how angry it got me during my playthrough, but that was just gaming back in the day. No guides, no walkthroughs, no tips, no tricks, just slightly confusing mission structure and controls that weren't at all precise and slightly annoying to use for extended periods of time, but that's just of the times. While they did make quality of life improvements in those areas and also customizable buttons, I haven't played any of the other games, but like I said before, I'm incredibly happy that this is its own standalone package, which I wasn't expecting or knew going in. So it makes me excited for the future of me playing and talking about these games. Except the newest one. I've heard people got some choice words about that one, even though you'd assume it'd be pretty fun being set in Italy, which is something I feel like we haven't seen in video games much these days. You know what? We need a game made for me. Made about the Greek shipping mafia. At the end of the day, we always win.